Hello and welcome to the MCQ lecture series. In the previous classes, we have dealt with MCQs with respect to chapter 1, 2 and 3. In today's class, I'll be talking about MCQs with respect to chapter 3, which is Industrial Environment in India, and this lecture series is solely dedicated for Indian Economic Environment, which is the FYBA Economics General Paper. So let's get started. The first MCQ in this session is talking about the government adopted a number of stabilizing measures in 1991, which includes what? So what were the measures or stabilizing measures which were incorporated in the 1991 policy by the government of India? And the underlying options are A. Opening of economy for trade, B. Disinvestment and privatization, C. They redefined the role of government, and D. All of the above. So in a sense, all these above mentioned options, that is opening of economy for trade, thereafter disinvestment and privatization, coupled with redefined role of state or government per se, includes number of stabilization measures included in the 1991 policy by the government of India, and therefore option D, which is all of the above, is the correct answer to this question. I hope this question is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is talking about which of the following includes major areas of economic reforms. Now the areas or major areas of economic reforms initiated by the 1991 policy, and the question is specifically looking at major areas of economic reforms which were incorporated in the policy, and the underlying options available to us are A. Promotion of competition, B. Promotion of flexible price structure in the economy, C. Knowledge based economy, and D. All of the above. So these are all major areas of economic reforms which were taken into consideration while formulating or passing the 1991 policy, and therefore all these three, that is promotion of competition, then promotion of flexible price structure in the economy, as well as knowledge based economy, are major areas of economic reforms, and therefore option D, which is all of the above, is the correct answer to this question. I hope this is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is looking at critical appraisal or limitations of the economic reforms, and the question goes like this: the critical appraisals of the economic reforms includes dash or includes what? And the underlying options are: it lacks well-defined strategy and dynamism, then too high expectations from the economic reforms, then we have rapid pace of the reform impacted certain industries per se, and all of the above. Now here all these three are in a sense limitations or critical appraisals of economic reforms, because there was a lack of well-defined strategy or dynamism in the policy, then we had too high expectations from the policy, and also the rapid pace of the policy or reform impacted certain segments of industries in India, and therefore this is also a lacuna or critical appraisal or limitation of the economic policy reforms, and therefore option D, all of these are in a sense critical appraisals of economic reforms. So I hope this question is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is talking about, or it is a definition sort of a question: the aggregates of all human physical and mental efforts, the aggregates of all human physical as well as human mental efforts used in the creation of a good or creation of a service is called as what? Whether it is called as land, whether it is called as labor, whether it is called as capital, or none of the above. So here it is specifically looking at human physical and mental abilities towards the contribution or towards the establishment or towards the creation of both goods as well as services. Therefore the correct answer to this question is option B, which is labor. The aggregates of all human physical as well as mental capacities or efforts used in the creation of a good and service is called as labor. I hope this question is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is talking about in how many parts labor is divided, and the question goes like this: labor is divided into dash types or parts. So there are either 1, 2, 3 or 4, and here you have to remember this or recollect this. There are 4 different types of labors. In the upcoming questions, that is question number 6, 7, 8, 9, I'll be talking about the different types of labors. So therefore here I'm not explaining you the 4 different types, and therefore let us look at the first type of labor, which is, now here the question is framed in this fashion: which of the following denotes physical labor. So now the first type is physical labor and mental labor is the first type. So therefore the first question is looking at which of the following denotes physical labor. It is A, agricultural labor, B, industrial labor, C, construction labor, and D, all of these. So here physical labor particularly means all of these, that is agriculture, industry as well as construction labors, and therefore option D is the correct answer. So I hope the first part of the first type of labor, which is physical labor, is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next part, which is of the first type, which is the mental labor sort of type, and the question is framed in this fashion: which of the following denotes mental labor? And the underlying options are A, doctors, B, advocates, C, professors, and D, all of the above. So in a sense, all of these are examples of mental labor, and therefore here I complete the first type. Here I talked about 4 different types of labor. The first type is physical and mental labor. So I hope the distinction between the two is pretty much clear, and this is the first type of labor, or labor is divided into 4 different types, and the first type is physical and mental labor. So I hope these 2 questions are pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is in a sense looking at the definition of certain type of labor, and the question is like this: dash is one who is capable of working efficiently by exercising considerable judgment or independent judgment by discharging his or her duties responsibly. And what do you call that entity? Whether he or she is a skilled labor, whether he or she is an unskilled labor, whether he or she is unproductive labor, or none of the above. So here the correct answer is skilled labor. Skilled labor is capable of working efficiently and is capable of taking independent decisions and taking or working out in such a manner that he carries out or she carries out his or her responsibilities carefully, and therefore option A, skilled labor, is the correct answer to this question. So I hope in the next type I'm looking at skilled and unskilled labor. So that is the second type of labor. Let us now look at the examples of skilled labor, and the question is framed in this fashion: the examples of skilled labor includes dash, and the underlying options are A, artists, B, engineers, C, doctors, and D, all of the above. So these are all in a sense looking at, or they are based on certain skills, and therefore they are all examples of skilled labor, and therefore option D is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the idea of skilled labor or the definition of skilled labor is pretty much clear with the help of an example as well. So I hope the idea of skilled labor is pretty much clear. Let us now look at the within the second type, which is skilled and unskilled. What do you mean by unskilled labor? Yeah, and the question is framed in this fashion: dash is the one who performs simple duties which requires little or no independent judgment. And what do you call such an entity? Whether you call them as skilled laborers, unskilled laborers, unproductive laborers, and none of the above. And here it is clear that it is unskilled labor, and therefore option B is the correct answer to this question. Unskilled labor is the one who performs simple duties which requires little or no independent judgment. So therefore this is the correct answer, option B, which is unskilled labor, to this particular question. I hope the question is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is: dash is the labor power within the sphere of productivity or production which is exchanged with capital and which is direct source of surplus value, which is a direct source of surplus value. And the underlying options are A, productive labor, B, unproductive labor, C, available labor, and D, unavailable labor. Now here it is very clearly mentioned that labor power within the sphere of production, and it leads to something called as being a direct source of surplus value, and therefore the correct option here is option A, which is called as productive labor. So now third type, which is productive and unproductive labor. So I hope this type is pretty much clear, and the question associated with this type is also pretty much clear: productive labor. Let us now move to the next, which is talking about the other part, which is unproductive, and the question is framed in this fashion: dash are labor powers within the sphere of circulation which is exchanged with some revenue, that is wages or profits, and which is not a source of surplus value. Here it was direct source of surplus value, and that is why productive labor. Here it is not a source of surplus value. So therefore, what the underlying options are available to us? The first option is productive labor, the second is unproductive labor, C is available labor, and D none of the above. And here it is clear that it is when it is not directly involved as a source of surplus value, that means it is unproductive labor. When it is, which is direct source of surplus value, then it is called as productive labor. So I hope the distinction between unproductive and productive is pretty much clear, and the question is pretty much clear, and the answer to this is unproductive labor. I hope this is clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is again denoting the last type or fourth type, which is dash laborers have knowledge of a particular work. Now, which laborers have a knowledge of particular work? Whether it is professional, whether it is unprofessional, whether it is administrative, or none of the above. Now you have knowledge of a particular work, and therefore it is clear that it has to be professional labor. So now the last type is professional and administrative, and therefore the correct option or the correct answer to this question, that is dash laborers have knowledge of a particular work, means professional laborers have a knowledge of particular work. So I hope the first part of the last type is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next or last question in this session, which is talking about the later part of the fourth type of labor, and the question is framed in this fashion: dash laborers are related to official work who supervise some persons in the office, and the underlying options are A professional, B unprofessional, C administrative, D none of the above. Now here it is clear that it has to be administrative because they are in a sense assisting someone in an office place, and therefore the correct answer is C administrative. So I hope the types are pretty much clear. The first type was physical and mental labor, the second type was skilled and unskilled, the third type was talking about productive and unproductive, and the fourth type was professional and administrative labor. So I hope these questions are pretty much clear. These are in a sense talking about the last part of the third chapter, which is talking about industrial environment in India. In the next class, I'll be talking about some of the multiple choice questions with respect to MSME and problems associated with that entire segment. So please stay tuned. Thank you.